All right, if you're in HR, I'm guessing the acronym OBBBA has been buzzing around your office lately. It's the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. And yeah, it's going to shake things up in 2026. But look, this isn't going to be some dry legal speak presentation. This is your practical, no-nonsense action plan. So let's jump right in.
So let's just cut right to the chase, shall we? Is your payroll system actually ready for 2026? Because the changes we're about to talk about are super technical, and they're aimed squarely at your systems and your day-to-day processes. We've got to make sure you're prepared.
Okay, so before we dive into the nitty-gritty, let's build a solid foundation. We're going to start with a quick look at what this law is really all about, beyond that ridiculously long name.
So what is this thing really? Well, at its core, OBB is all about giving employees a bit of a tax break. The goal is to make certain kinds of income non-taxable. Sounds great, right? But for those of us in HR, that employee relief creates a whole new set of compliance headaches. We're talking more reporting, new risks, and yeah, a lot more questions from your team.
The law itself is massive, a real beast. But for you, it really boils down to 4 key areas that are got to get, well, a lot trickier. Let's break down exactly what you need to have on your radar.
We're looking at some pretty significant shakeups in how we handle payroll and overtime. There's a new, very specific definition for reporting tips. We've got some good news, some welcome updates on the benefits front, and there's a renewed, much sharper focus on immigration compliance. Let's get into each one.
First up, payroll. This one's a biggie. Starting in 2026, you're going to have to report something called qualified overtime separately on the W-2. And here's the absolute key. This is not all overtime pay. It's only the premium part, that extra half in time and a half that the FLSA requires. Your system now has to be smart enough to find just that premium portion and report it. This is a brand new requirement, and it's critical to get it right.
And you know what? The exact same logic applies to tips. You'll now have to report qualified tips separately. And just like with overtime, that word qualified is everything. We're talking about voluntary tips and only voluntary tips. That mandatory 18% service charge you add for large parties? Nope, that is not a qualified tip. It's a service charge. This is probably one of the biggest trip-up points in the whole law.
Okay, it is not all doom and gloom, I promise. There's actually some good news in here for benefits. The limit for dependent care FSAs is jumping up to $7,500. That's a nice little bump that lets your employees set aside more pre-tax money for things like childcare. Plus, the telehealth safe harbor is now permanent, which is a huge win for making virtual care more accessible for employees on high-deductible health plans.
And finally, immigration. The government is basically sending up a flare here. Sure, we're seeing some fee increases, but the real headline for us is the phrase heightened scrutiny on I-9 compliance. And let's be real, we all know what that means. More worksite visits, more audits, and more pressure to be perfect.
All right, so we've talked about the what. Now let's talk about the so what. What does this all actually look like when the rubber meets the road in your office? Let's walk through a couple of real-world scenarios to see how these new rules can create some major day-to-day headaches. First up, let's meet Sarah. She's a fantastic HR manager at a manufacturing plant, and she's about to have a really, really bad day thanks to OBBBA.
Sarah's problem is the classic one, and it's a ticking time bomb in so many systems right now. Her payroll system just lumps all overtime pay into one big bucket. It has no idea how to separate the straight time portion from that FLSA premium portion. So come 2026, she has no way to report qualified overtime correctly. It's a perfect example of a system failure waiting to happen.
Let's just put this side by side because this is so important. Over on the left, you've got that reportable qualified overtime. Remember, it's only the premium piece. It needs to be isolated, and it's getting a brand new W-2 code, OC, in box 12. Everything else, the straight time portion of those overtime hours, is on the right. That's just treated like regular wages. If your system can't tell these two apart, you are not ready, period.
All right, POS, let's see what's changed. Wait, is that a tip trap? Wow, this is incredible.
Okay, now let's head over to the hospitality world and meet David. He's the HR director for a big restaurant group, and he is walking right into what I call the tip trap.
See, this is so common. David's point of sale system, his POS, automatically slaps the label tip on that mandatory 18% service charge. But the law doesn't care what the POS system calls it. It only cares about the definition. And by blindly trusting that label, his company is now at huge risk for misreporting and some pretty hefty penalties. Look, when it comes down to it, the difference is just one word: choice. Did the customer have a choice to pay it? If the answer is yes, it's a qualified tip, and it gets the new Box 12 code, TP. If the answer is no, it's a mandatory service charge and gets taxed just like regular wages. It is truly that simple. It doesn't matter what your menu says or what your POS calls it. It's all about customer choice.
Okay. I know those scenarios might feel a little stressful. So let's take a deep breath, because this is where we pivot from problems to solutions. We are not going to leave you hanging. Here is a clear 4-step action plan you can start on tomorrow to turn that anxiety into action.
Here we go. Step 1. Talk to your vendors, and I mean now. Don't just ask if they're ready. Ask them the hard questions like, show me your product roadmap for OBBBA compliance, and can you confirm in writing when these updates will be live? Step 2. Audit your own systems. Run a test report today. Can you isolate these amounts right now? If the answer is no, you need a plan to fix that stat. Step 3. Standardize that I-9 process. It needs to be a rock-solid, documented procedure that everyone follows every single time. And 4, get your communications ready. Your employees are going to have questions, and you need to be the source of clear, factual answers.
And let's just be crystal clear about those I-9s for a second. With the government literally telling us they're going to be cracking down, doing your own regular self-audits is no longer a nice-to-have, it is an absolute, non-negotiable must-have to protect your company. So as we wrap this up, here's the bottom line. OBBA is coming. These changes are not optional, but you can absolutely be ready for it. The only question left is, will your plan be proactive, or will you be forced to be reactive when it's too late? The choice is yours. Thanks for tuning in.